This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
The Israeli occupation forces killed 2 Palestinian leaders from the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, the military wing of Fatah, in the Balata refugee camp near the West Bank city of Nablus. A special military unit of the Israeli army yesterday assassinated Arad al-Rabi, a Palestinian leader from the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades in Ramallah.
As night fell on Ramallah, the images of blood were still haunting local residents. An Israeli special military force carried out a raid in the city of Ramallah and assassinated Arad al-Rabi, a member of the Palestinian Preventative Security Agency and a leader of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades. According to eyewitnesses, the Israeli army opened fire from a close range on al-Rabi. Meanwhile, Palestinians in the city of Nablus witnessed bloody images similar to those seen in Ramallah. Supported by warplanes, an Israeli special military force carried out a raid and surrounded a building in the Balata refugee camp. Israeli warplanes fired missiles at the building, penetrating its walls. From on top of the roof, 2 Palestinian leaders from Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades were killed after they were engaged in a confrontation with the Israeli occupation forces. In addition, 2 Israeli soldiers were wounded in the clashes.
The Israeli army stormed into the 2 men's hideout. They were slaughtered on the roof. When I went up on the roof, I saw them lying in a pool of blood. The Israelis hit them with their missiles.
The Israeli army has not let up its campaign of ongoing assassinations, adding to the anger and frustration of Palestinians. This Israeli escalation makes the job of the Palestinian president rather difficult. Abbas is trying hard to convince the Palestinian factions to abide by the cooling-off period.
According to articles of the prisoner's document, Palestinian factions must abide by a cooling-off period and agree on the nature of Palestinian resistance, but the Israelis do not want any of that. Israel wants the bloodshed and violence to continue because it wants to make up for its failure and defeat in Lebanon.
Meanwhile, the Palestinian Executive Committee of the PLO met in an attempt to study the Palestinian internal situation, which is adding to the complexity of the Palestinian crisis. Abbas is proposing a political program that calls for the formation of a new government. Abbas hopes that his proposal, which will be presented to all Palestinian factions, will be able to lift the Israeli siege.
What we need now is to make Palestinian interests a top priority. We need a government program that is capable of lifting the siege imposed on the Palestinian people and also capable of rallying international support for our cause. Then we can defeat this Israeli aggression.
Palestinians are living a painful life. On one side, the Israeli occupation army continues to shed Palestinian blood daily. On the other side, the Palestinian political scene is divided, and it is not able to create a clear vision that may bring the Palestinian people out of the current political and economic impasse. Shireen Abu Aqla, Al Jazeera, from Balata refugee camp, occupied Nablus.
Security establishment said today that the 2 wanted Palestinians killed by border police this morning in the Balata refugee camp near Nablus in the West Bank were involved in a number of terror attacks on Israeli targets. The 2 men, Ibrahim Niba and Hani Khashash, apparently received training and funding from Hezbollah. Niba was involved in the suicide attack on the settlement of Kedemim 6 months ago, in which 4 Israelis were murdered. He was also responsible for sending a female terrorist to Tel Aviv to kidnap an Israeli citizen. 2 men were both members of the Fatah-affiliated Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades. They were killed after the Special Border Police Unit raided a house in the camp where they'd holed up. When the terrorists opened fire, the officers fired back, killing the wanted men. 2 of the border police were very likely hurt in the raid. In other news, the family of missing airman Ron Arad has reacted cautiously and with mixed emotions to a Lebanese television trailer aired last night showing previously unseen still photographs and video footage of Arad, who was taken hostage 20 years ago when his plane was shot down over Lebanon. The TV channel LBC is promoting a documentary program on Ron Arad that is scheduled to air next week. In addition to the footage on Arad, the trailer includes images from the Hezbollah abduction of 3 IDF soldiers in October of 2000.
The Israeli occupation forces have killed 8 Palestinians in Al-Shuja'iyya neighborhood in eastern Gaza. 6 Israeli human rights organizations filed a complaint against the Israeli Ministry of Defense, demanding that the government reopen the Kearney border crossing and allow the flow of essential supplies into the Gaza Strip.
عملية التوغل التي تنفذها قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي تحت غطاء الطائرات الحربية منذ السبت الماضي
Supported by warplanes, the Israeli occupation forces continued to carry out offensive military operations in Al-Shuja'iyya neighborhood in eastern Gaza. 8 Palestinians were martyred and several others were wounded during the past few hours. 4 of the martyrs, who were members of the executive force that is affiliated with the Palestinian Ministry of Interior, were killed in a missile that was fired by an Israeli surveillance drone. 3 Hamas activists were also martyred in 3 separate aerial raids. Moreover, the Israeli army killed a Palestinian youth in Gaza and prevented paramedics from transporting his body for nearly 10 hours, despite pleas by some humanitarian groups. In another unrelated development, a Palestinian youth was killed in Khan Yunis by the Ministry of Interior security forces. The victim was shot to death after ignoring repeated commands to stop at a Palestinian security checkpoint. The body of a Palestinian youth was found at his home, and it appeared that he died of multiple gunshot wounds. Meanwhile, the Palestinian government condemned the ongoing Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people.
آثار طلقات نارية. وقد استنكرت الحكومة الفلسطينية في اجتماع لها الاعتداءات الإسرائيلية المستمرة على الشعب الفلسطيني.
حول جرائم الاحتلال تستنكر الحكومة الفلسطينية المجازر البشعة التي ترتكبها قوات الاحتلال في قطاع غزة وفي الضفة الغربية، والتي تنفذ بشكل يومي في مختلف المناطق.
The Palestinian government condemns daily Israeli heinous and criminal massacres against our people in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. 8 Palestinians, including 4 security officers from the executive force, were martyred today. In addition, 4 other Palestinians were martyred in Khan Yunis, Jabalia, and Nablus. The occupation army continues to carry out its premeditated and criminal campaign against civilians and residential buildings.
شعبنا ضمن سياسة ممنهجة ومستمرة، خصوصا استهداف المباني السكنية.
The Israeli occupation army claimed that it had carried out its military offensive operation in Gaza in order to capture a number of wanted Palestinian activists. The army, which used heavy military machineries and warplanes, carried out a number of home raids and arrested several local residents and government officials in Gaza.
UN Secretary General Kofi Annan is making the second stop on his Middle East tour, which began in Lebanon. He arrived in Israel, where he is expected to hold meetings with the Israeli Prime Minister and other Israeli officials to discuss ways to implement UN Resolution 1701, in addition to ending Israel's air raid and sea blockade on Lebanon. Annan visited South Lebanon and inspected the international forces operating there. He also surveyed the destruction that was caused by the Israeli aggression.
On the second day of Kofi Annan's visit to Lebanon, he went to the south. Anan left Beirut on board a United Nations helicopter that was operated by the international forces that were deployed in the south and landed near the UNIFIL headquarters in Naqoura along the Lebanese and Israeli coastal borders. As soon as the reception ceremony of Anan was completed, he inspected the international forces, accompanied by the French Major General Hélène Pellegrini, the UNIFIL commander. Then Anan placed a wreath on the memorial of a Nigerian civilian and 4 United Nations observers who were killed by the Israeli aggression while they were monitoring the ceasefire. Anan met with the UNIFIL commanders and discussed the deployment arrangement of the UNIFIL 2 forces that are expected to arrive this week and their assigned duties. He then went in a helicopter tour over the south and looked at the destruction that was caused by the 34 days of Israeli aggression on Lebanon.
We expect more forces to arrive in the coming days and weeks to join the forces that were already deployed here and facilitate the Israeli withdrawal and the handing over of the area to the Lebanese army. It is important that both the Lebanese and the Israelis are committed to the implementation of UN Resolution 1701 and work with the international forces to maintain stability.
غادر عنان إلى إسرائيل لإجراء محادثات مع المسؤولين الإسرائيليين قبل التوجه إلى سوريا وإيران ومصر والسودان.
Anan then went to Israel to talk with Israeli officials before going to Syria, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. The United Nations Security General Kofi Annan had arrived in Beirut yesterday and held a meeting with the Lebanese Parliament Speaker Nabih Berri and held 2 other meetings with Prime Minister Fouad al-Siniora. He discussed with them the steps that the Lebanese government has taken to strengthen security along the borders. Anan warned that the fighting may be renewed if Resolution 1701 is not implemented. Anan urged Israel to immediately end the air and sea blockade that it has been imposing on Lebanon for the past 7 weeks. Anan also urged Hezbollah to release the 2 soldiers that it kidnapped on July 12, 2006.
الذين أسرهما يوم 12 من يوليو الماضي. رمز المصري العربية.
Minister of Public Works and Transportation, Mohammed Safadi, toured the devastated southern suburbs. He confirmed that the government and Hezbollah will coordinate in the reconstruction effort. He also accepted a French gift in the form of the construction of 6 bridges, 70 trucks and bulldozers, as well as other types of assistance.
Starting from the Hreik neighborhood, the Minister of Public Works and Transportation, Mohammed Al-Safadi, began his inspection of the southern suburbs. He toured the devastated areas and noted the progress Public Works has made in removing the rubble. This is the first phase of the reconstruction effort. The Parliament member Ali Amar, who accompanied the Minister of Works during his tour, thanked the ministry for its efforts. Safadi responded by confirming that Hezbollah and the ministry will work together in the reconstruction. Minister, after the process of removing the rubble is completed, will the government's role be to assist in the reconstruction, or will it pay compensation to the citizens?
Hezbollah's position was clear. It confirmed that whoever lost their home, it will be reconstructed for them, it will be rebuilt for them. Whether it is Hezbollah or the government, at the end of the day, our goal is to serve the public and serve the people.
What is your duty, Minister?
This is our duty. As a government, this is our duty.
Is it the duty of the ministry and government or of Hezbollah?
Of course, the government is responsible for the reconstruction. Hezbollah represents a large segment of the Lebanese government. It has a presence in the ministries and in the parliament. Hezbollah's position and the government's position always complement one another. We do not want to say that each one has its own position. The 2 positions are one.
The work in the southern suburbs was partitioned into 70 areas, where nearly 500 machines from the Jihad Company were tasked by the Ministry of Works to remove the rubble and transport it to the areas near the airport, filling an average of 2,000 trucks a day. The process of removing this rubble is expected to take about 45 days, according to the minister. At the Beirut port, Minister Safadi accepted a French gift in the form of 6 steel bridges, 70 trucks, and bulldozers, as well as other assistance. The charge d'affaires in the French embassy, Joseph Silga, said the first bridge to be constructed will be the Damour Bridge. The other bridges to be rebuilt will be in the areas surrounding the Litani River.
The French were shocked by the displacement of 1 million Lebanese, the killing of children, scenes of devastated neighborhoods in the southern suburbs of Beirut and southern Lebanon, as well as the bombing of bridges, which links to all areas of Lebanon. We will work to reconstruct these bridges.
The Lebanese government reiterates its commitment to the Security Council resolution and calls on the United Nations and the international community to pressure Israel to carry out its obligations according to UN Resolution 1701 and to remove the siege that it is imposing in Lebanon, which is in violation of international laws and UN treaties. We are waiting for France to continue its efforts to achieve this goal quickly in support of stability in Lebanon.
Minister Safadi indicated that French forces will be tasked with assembling the steel bridges.
It's been over 2 weeks since Israel ended its military war, but families were still burying their dead and coming to terms with the destruction of their homes as well as their villages. Sarah Khouri leads us into a journey of the southern Lebanese village of Zibqin.
This is the story of Zibqin, a southern Lebanese village, a 15-minute drive from the Lebanese-Israeli border. In order to reach this land, rich with tobacco and vegetation, one will need to pass by Sidon, the capital of southern Lebanon, and the city of Tyre. Both were built on the shoulders of century-old trade and the fishing industry. But nothing can prepare you for the journey and what you will find at your destination. Casualties, until now, at least 23 civilians. Missing, scores. Homes completely destroyed, at least 80%. Homes partially destroyed, some 20%. Homes intact, 0%. The cause? Israel's war on what it calls terrorists. Let's take a look at its targets.
My brother was martyred on the 13th day of the war. He was entering my grandparents' house as he was going up the stairs. The building was hit. He was martyred along with my aunt and her 3 daughters, my uncle's wife, her son and daughter. My other aunt and my grandmother, only 5 members of the family, including myself, are still alive. I used to go out with my brother, spend a lot of time together. Now, all that is left are memories. It's hard.
On Wednesday, we spent the evening with our friends and neighbors. My friend, her mom and family. We were celebrating because she graduated from high school. Hours after they left, they were killed. I miss her a lot. Both our families were very close. They all died.
About 100 meters down from the rubble of this home, the destruction of which took the lives of a family of 13. On our left-hand side, you will find Abu Hassan's home, sandwiched in between 2 collapsed buildings. Tobacco plants, basking in the sun, ordain the entrance of the home, while up the stairs, the woman of the house welcomes you with a warm smile, breaking the cold shock of this unsightly and broken castle. A home like no other, it now boasts a peculiar panoramic view at the heart of the living room and an outdoor kitchen. These are features that were certainly not intended in the initial blueprint of Abu Hassan's dream, a dream he says has crumbled in front of his helpless eyes.
I had hopes and dreams, but they stole my dreams. I won't leave my house. It cost me my sweat and blood. We have no tears to cry. I have one question. Why did they do this to us?
Feelings that do not escape any age.
I'm very sad. We had hoped to build Zibqin and make it known for its beauty and not its weapons. Israel stole our dreams, and we tell her that we will rebuild Zibqin.
Their lives have been destroyed once again due to Israel's aggression, leaving them with no money, no electricity, no water, and no cattle. Their friends, neighbors, and loved ones have perished or fled, but their warm Middle Eastern hospitality is still intact. They welcome visitors with open arms and offer them all they have left, a warm cup of tea, accompanied by stories of better days and their hope for the future. Hassan recalls witnessing Israeli-friendly fire, which resulted in casualties that left behind puddles of blood underneath her children's bedroom window decades ago. Mustafa, who had been a neighbor of this family for decades, nods his head in affirmation of Hassan's story. He did not stay in Zibkin all throughout this latest war. After 18 days living under the bombings, Mustafa, his family and friends were evacuated by a bus sent by other residents who had already fled to Sidon. Hours after their departure, their home was destroyed. Walking through Zibkin is like taking a tour on a Hollywood set. To better understand the extent of this tragedy, imagine that it was your town that was bombed to the ground, including your house and belongings, numerous members of your family, neighbors and friends killed. Here, not even the dead can rest in peace, as this cemetery has been reduced to dust. Scores of civilian casualties, destroyed homes, villages and lives. This is Israel's bitter recipe for southern Lebanon. Sarah Khoudi, Future TV, Zibkin.
Sheikh Hussein Al-Hajj Hassan, a Lebanese parliament member and a representative of the Lebanese Party for the Solidarity with the Resistance, said that Hezbollah is stronger than it was before July 12, 2006. He also urged some Lebanese officials to reconsider their political stands.
In a speech to honor the martyrs of the Islamic resistance at the Imam al-Mahdi shrine in Wazai, Sheikh Hussein Al-Hajj Hassan, a member of the Lebanese Party for the Solidarity with the Resistance, commented on the political positions of some Lebanese government parties. While he criticized some officials, he urged others to hold talks at the bargaining table, stressing that the disarming of Hezbollah is an internal issue. He also said that Hezbollah is now stronger than it was before August 14, 2006, calling for stability in Lebanon and an end to sectarianism.
We ask you to stand united, be patient, persevere, and remain alert. We also urge you to support the national unity. We do not ask you to do so because we have personal interests or because of fear or weakness. The Lebanese must stand united so the Israeli and American enemies will not be able to stir sectarian strife in Lebanon. For those who disagree with our agenda, I ask them to reconsider their political positions.
Al-Hajj Hassan also inquired about financial aid pledged by some Arab and foreign countries to help reconstruction efforts in Lebanon.
Neither the Lebanese government nor Arab or foreign countries have sent money to help reconstruction efforts in Lebanon. It has been 15 days since military offensive operations in Lebanon have ended, and we have not yet seen any financial aid. How much money did Europe or the Arab states, including Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, pledge to help Lebanon? Qatar also pledged to help reconstruction efforts in Vintage Vale. How much money did the United Nations pledge to help reconstruction efforts in Lebanon?
Al-Hajj Hassan asked the UN Secretary General Kofi Annan if he got permission from Israel before he visited Lebanon. He also said that Anan's envoy, Terry Rode Larson, who is overseeing the implementation of UN Resolution 1559, is biased toward the Zionist enemy.
The Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Ivanov, said that talks about imposing sanctions on Iran are premature. He said that his country will continue working towards reaching a political and diplomatic solution to this crisis between Iran and the West. During a visit to Japan, the former Iranian President Mohammad Khatami called for using the language of dialogue to resolve his country's nuclear crisis. He called on Japan to help in this regard. 5 days before the deadline set by the United Nations Security Council requiring Iran to suspend its nuclear program, the Russian Defense Minister, Sergei Ivanov, said that the international concerns over Tehran's nuclear program do not justify holding talks about imposing sanctions on it.
I do not know of any precedent where sanctions had achieved their intended goals effectively. I do not think that the issue of imposing sanctions on Iran should be discussed. Russia can exert more effort to find a resolution.
وكانت إيران عرضت الثلاثاء الفائت بدء محادثات جادة في شأن برنامجها النووي.
Last Tuesday, Iran proposed holding serious negotiations concerning its nuclear program, but without agreeing to the international resolution demanding it to halt uranium enrichment. This has generated German and French opposition. A few days ago, Tehran conducted a wide-scale military training maneuvers to show that it is ready to deter any possible military confrontation. At the same time, the Iranian former President Mohammad Khatami renewed calls for using the diplomatic option. Khatami, who is visiting Tokyo to participate in a conference, said that his country is not trying to develop nuclear weapons and called on Japan to help in resolving the crisis.
على المساعدة لحل الأزمة.
به هیچ وجه ایران خواستار
Iran does not intend to develop nuclear weapons. Japan depends on nuclear energy to generate 30% of its needs. This is a higher percentage of what France is using. Similarly, the US strongly depends on nuclear energy. Iran has the right to develop modern technology just like other countries.
Khatami warned that the continued pressure exerted on Iran through the United Nations Security Council may empower the extremists. He also called for resolving the issue peacefully.
أنطوان خليل العربية.
Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad attended a press conference Tuesday where domestic and foreign reporters raised varying questions ranging from democracy, US-Iran ties, and Tehran's nuclear case to recent developments in the region.
The president said the time is right for democracy, justice, and equality to dominate the international interactions. President Ahmadinejad went on to brand the US and its close ally Britain the sole origin of war and acts of violence throughout the globe, saying Washington and London are struggling to impose their own standpoints on 180 countries which make up the entire international community. President Ahmadinejad then